Hey yo, Chris here, and thanks for tuning into the Delta. And we are returning to F1 racing after 4 weeks of summer break. I hope you enjoyed the time off from racing. It was hit or miss for me. I was rather busy at work and I went on vacation myself. So summer break kind of fell at the perfect time of the year for me. But at the same time, I also missed racing. We got about 2 weeks in or so. And I was like, man, I really could go for a race. You know what I mean? But we're headed to Circuit Zandvoort. They're in the Netherlands for the Dutch Grand Prix. And boy, oh boy, this is a cool track. I don't know too much about like the racing on the track that much, but the fans definitely make the experience and the atmosphere amazing. I know some people don't like the orange smoke and all that other stuff, but I don't know. The Dutch, they sure as hell know how to party, and I would do anything to be a part of that experience. The Dutch Grand Prix definitely is on the list of racetracks I'd love to visit someday. So, I mean, just take a look at some of this stuff. It's absolutely insane. They just know how to party, and I'm here for it. But more about the track in itself. You have a total length of 4.259 kilometers. It's a total of 72 laps. A total race distance of 306.587 kilometers. It has 2 DRS zones and 14 turns. And that's about as much as I really know about the track. I do know that it has a really cool, we call it in construction a super elevation on a turn that's really, really steep. So like that's really unique about the track in itself. But other than that, I don't really know what kind of strategies you run. I don't really know too much about how teams approach the track. It doesn't seem super long. I mean, it has 72 laps. So I mean, obviously it's not the world's longest circuit. So it will be interesting to see this year, now that I know a little bit about racing, to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on the track and not so much about the party going on in the stands. As you can see, I'm here in my truck, and a few weeks ago I asked you guys to give me a name for the truck, and somebody recommended the Hamilton. Now, I didn't really like it at first. I was like, I don't like Mercedes, and Lewis Hamilton, he's all right, but he's not my favorite or anything like that. And then I remembered, he's gonna be in a Ferrari next year. And what better way to welcome him to the Ferrari fandom than letting him drive my truck? So you can see right here, we're leading in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And then we're cruising around in Spa. And then here we are taking over a McLaren in Hungary. And who can forget the time we put pressure on Max Verstappen in Austria? And that was so much fun that we decided to punt him again there in Hungary. Anyway, the Hamilton, I like it. That's what we're going with. And Lewis Hamilton, you can drive my truck any day you want, as long as I'm in the passenger seat and you're doing crazy shit in it. Like and subscribe to the channel though. If you like the content, then hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot, helps the channel out a lot, lets me know that you like what I'm putting out. Now that summer break is over, we're going back to race reviews, race previews, the Voodoo Wheel, power rankings, stuff like that. If you like Formula One and want my American input, then hit that subscribe button so you can follow. But now let's get into the video. We always start with the upgrades, and we'll first start with Red Bull. They apparently had a package for Baku, but they decided to bring some of that package to Zandvoort, and they're hoping that it gives them some sort of gap between them and McLaren. Or I mean, really, McLaren is kind of the faster car, so maybe they're just hoping that this keeps them on par with McLaren. But it's an underfloor upgrade. Again, I'm not an engineer. I try not to go too deep into the upgrades. I just like giving a little overview of what I saw in the media and notes. So yeah, so it looks like they're gonna bring an underfloor to Zandvoort. I don't know, maybe they tweak it, maybe they bring in a whole new system. Beats me. But you would assume that it's supposed to benefit Red Bull in some form or fashion. Talking about underfloors, Mercedes is also bringing in an upgrade, sorta. They actually brought the upgrade to Spa. They didn't like it. It created too much bouncing, so they reverted back to the old floor. And they're bringing that floor originally designed for Spa to Zandvoort, hoping that the bouncing won't be near as bad, but the performance will be great. And then talking about bouncing issues, we got Ferrari. They've been bouncing since Spain, apparently. And probably due to the floor that they put on. A lot of floor upgrades. This time around, though, they're keeping the floor, but they're trying to add like aerodynamic parts and front wing design changes in hopes that that mitigates the bouncing so they can utilize the performance that the floor was supposed to do. They just couldn't maximize that performance because it was just creating too much turmoil while racing down the track. And then we go on to McLaren. They're super secret squirrel about their upgrades for the second half of the season. Nothing super specific, but the plans are to break this upgrade package that they have into into 2 or 3 parts, and one of these parts that they plan on bringing in to Zandvoort. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm not an engineer, so what I found with Ferrari is that their upgrades are downgrades and Mercedes upgrades are super upgrades, and I don't really know the math or science really behind it. I just know that when I hear upgrade, some teams tend to do better with them than others. McLaren, Mercedes, for instance, are really good at their upgrades. Ferrari, Aston Martin, not so much. Now we'll move on to the weather. It seems to be mild temperatures, high 60s, low 70s. No rain is expected for the Grand Prix, but on Saturday there are some expected showers, so we could see rain for FP3 or even quali, which might change things up, help somebody out, hurt other teams. But yeah, for the race it's going to be dry and expect a normal type of condition for the main race. All right, and now we'll move on to these predictions, starting with the biggest loser. It's getting kind of hard to be novel or high IQ with these picks. This far in the season, we kind of know who's good, we kind of know who's bad. So for biggest loser, you can always pick Alpine, Sargent, Zhao Guanyu, Kick. Pick your poison. One of those guys are probably not going to perform very well. But for this particular race, I think I'm just going to stick with Alpine. They have a decent driver lineup, yet the car is just horrible. I'm not saying that they should be winning Grand Prix or getting podiums, but with Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon, you would expect a team with that driver lineup to score points regularly. Well, they're not. So that leads to the car is just garbage. And because the car is garbage, they're just going to be the biggest loser. P19 for Ocon and P16 for Pierre Gasly. Again, I don't know if that's really a pick that's that's surprising, but they're not performing at the standards that we expect Alpine to perform. Thus, they're the biggest loser. Now, with the biggest loser, you always then have an opposite called the exceptional performer. And I have Sergio Perez. It's one of those things, since we found out that Sergio Perez is not losing his seat yet. Red Bull plans on keeping him for the remainder of the season. That means that Red Bull either believes that they can help Perez out in getting better results, or they believe that Perez will get out of his funk at some point and get better results on his own. Nonetheless, we've had some time off. Red Bull has had time to come up with ideas. Sergio Perez has had time to reboot, recharge, revitalize himself. And I think that he has the potential to do well on this particular weekend. Top 5 for me. I don't necessarily think he'll make podium. He could, but I think top 5, P5, P4, P3 maybe. And if he can do that, then that's a very good job from Sergio Perez. Then we'll go on to the biggest disappointment. And I have Ferrari. I think they're going to struggle this particular weekend. One thing I've noticed with Ferrari is when they bring in upgrades, they are pretty slow at reaping the rewards of the upgrades. Or in this case, they just never reaped any rewards. But it seems like they'll bring in an upgrade, and then they have a mediocre to subpar performance. They collect data, analyze it, and then move on from there. Well, with this new floor and aero changes and all this other stuff, I have a feeling that they're going to come up with a setup that is going to be considered safe and just get you that P8, P7 range. I'd love to see them, you know, fighting for podiums, but they're just not there. And I don't think that they're going to fix up these bouncing problems and then suddenly be competing with McLaren. They might fix the bouncing, but they're gonna then have to figure out how to maximize the performance after they can confirm that they made the car better. So I don't think they're gonna do well this particular weekend. We'll see how they perform. If they perform decently and get rid of that bouncing, then I expect some strides forward for them. But for the Dutch Grand Prix, no bueno for Ferrari. And then I will move on to the shocker pick. With such a long break, it's hard to come up with something that's like super definitive, but hey, it's the shocker pick. It's the thing that no one expects anyway. So I think I'm going to say one of the Mercedes DNFs. George Russell had too light of a car there in Spa, got disqualified. Very unfortunate for him. And Lewis Hamilton ended up with the win. Mercedes is doing very well across the board outside of that disqualification. And I just think that it might be time for them to be brought back down to earth, and it might not even be their fault. Maybe George Russell really wants to prove himself after such a heartbreaking disqualification there in Spa, and he pushes himself in one of those corners and bends it into the wall. Maybe Lewis Hamilton gets another power unit failure. You know, the car just couldn't do it anymore, and it was doing so well for so many races, and this just happens to be the race that it fails. We'll find out, but yeah, the shocker pick is Mercedes DNFs. And then we'll move on to pole position. And I got Max Verstappen. It's his home track. The fans are going to be roaring. They're going to be dancing. They're going to be having a good time. Orange smoke everywhere. The Orange Army all up in arms. And he's going to want to put on a show. And he has the skill, the talent, and the car to do that. I still think McLaren will be competitive, but I have a feeling it's going to be that situation where we get to the final laps there of Q1, and we're trying to see who's going to take pole, and it's going to be like Lando Norris puts in a blistering track time, and then the announcer's going to go like, yes, but as you can see, Max Verstappen just put in a purple Sector 1, and he's on pace to put in a best time for himself on Sector 2, and then cross the finish line. You know, next thing you know, he takes the pole position by 0.2, something like that. So Max Verstappen, pole position. And then we'll go on to podium predictions. Well, since I think Ferrari's going to suck and Mercedes is going to have a DNF, that really only leaves McLaren. Where are we going to put them during this race? And I have them both on the podium at P3 and P2. Piastri P3, Norris P2. Flip-flop them if you want. I just don't think they have it in them to win. They make too many mental blunders, whether that's on the driver's side where Piastri's burning out his tires, or Norris is too aggressive or not aggressive enough, or something, or they pit stop the wrong way. They have so many opportunities to win throughout this season, and they've managed to squander it away due to one bad decision, bad launch, bad tires, poor pit stop, something, you know what I mean? And I can't confidently just be like, one of these McLarens are going to win because they are in the fastest car. No, you also need to be a good strategist too. You also can't make the mistakes on your tires. So on and so forth. What you insert minor mistake, and that is the reason why you come in P2, P3, P4, and not, you know, winning the race in itself. And then that leaves the winner. And you got it, Max Verstappen. Super max time. Now, I hope that the race is still good. I want Max Verstappen to have to work for the race victory like he has in the more recent victories he's had. And I don't want it to come easy. I don't want to see Max Verstappen win by 20 seconds and it's just a, you know, Sunday drive for him. I want a good race, but I just feel that the atmosphere on his home track and that the McLarens are going to make a mistake, and the Ferraris aren't going to be competitive, and it's just not Mercedes weekend. Max Verstappen is going to just take advantage of that. He's not going to make the mistake. He's going to get the pole position. He might have to fight, you know, Lando Norris or Piastri from time to time. So Super Max is going to come to his home track ready to go and leave with a victory. But yeah, that's it. That's the race in a nutshell. That is my predictions for this upcoming weekend. And we'll get ready for the Power Rankings Voodoo Wheel video here in a couple days, or a couple hours, I guess. It depends when I have the time. But if you're interested in that, hit that subscribe button, maybe the notification bell, and you'll find out when I post that video. But until next time, take care, stay safe, and have fun out there. Bye, everybody.